Hi, and welcome back to Hey, have you read this book? The book I'll be talking about today is The Girl in the Green Sweater, written by Krystyna Chiger. This incredible account of a brave Jewish family living in the sewers under the city of Lvov in Poland during World War II is one which I will not easily forget. This true story is so amazing that a movie based on this book was made. Krystyna was born in 1935 and grew up in Lvov. There were over 600,000 people living in Lvov in 1935, including about 150,000 Jews. Krystyna's parents were Jews and owned a textile store where they both worked. In 1939, Krystyna's brother was born and the Germans started to drop bombs on Lvov. The bombing continued for weeks. And after the bombing stopped, the Jewish population grew to over 200,000 because Poland became divided, with the Germans occupying the west part of Poland and the Russians occupying the east part, which included Lvov. So thousands of Jewish families moved to the east to avoid being under German rule. Under Soviet rule, the Chigers' family business, which like all businesses was taken over by the government. The family also had to give up their nanny and housekeeper and share their apartment with other families. In 1941, Lvov was bombed again. The Russians fled and the Germans got the Ukrainians to do their dirty work, which was to round up thousands of Jews and deliver them to the Germans. The Germans looted buildings, then set them on fire. Soon the Germans wanted the Chigers' apartment for their headquarters, so the Chigers had to leave. The Chiger family lived in various places, often in one room with up to 3 other families. Krystyna's mother was assigned work making uniforms for the German army, and her father had to do manual labour. This meant that Krystyna was left to look after her brother. It was terrifying for Krystyna and her brother to be left alone. All around them, other Jews were being taken away by the Germans, so they never knew if their parents would be taken, or they themselves would be taken. Krystyna's father was a skilled carpenter and built hiding places for Krystyna and her brother, false walls in the wardrobe or a hidden space beneath the window ledge. Sometimes they had to stay in these hiding places all day until their father came home to let them out. As more and more Jews were taken away by the Germans, the family had no other option other than to climb down into the sewers under the city. There they stayed for 14 months with other Jews, relying on their saviour, Leopold Sosha, a Polish Catholic sewer worker and former thief, to bring them food and supplies. Sosha convinced 2 co-workers to help bring food and to act as lookouts. But they could only bring small amounts of food at a time as to not arouse suspicion. Fresh water was very difficult to get, and it meant that some of the men had to crawl through a 40-centimetre diameter pipe, holding the handle of a kettle in his teeth for hours a day. It was cold, dark, damp and horrible smelling in the sewers, and they had to share their living space with rats. Living in such terrible conditions was bad enough, but the family was also in the constant presence of other people, thrown together by circumstance. People formed into groups, and there was dissension between the groups, with some people complaining all the time. Many of the men became jealous of Krystyna's father, because he got on so well with Sosha. But there was no getting away from each other in the hidden room underground. Leaving the sewer, as some found out, meant certain death. There were many occasions when they thought they would all die as they suffered from sickness, terrified that they had been discovered and were nearly drowned in a flood. Read this book to find out how many Jewish people survived by living in the sewers. This haunting memoir is about the terrible atrocities that the Germans did to the Jews during World War II. The Jews had to endure unimaginable conditions, but in the story there is hope and the will to survive. Krystyna was still able to find humour in the terrible situation she and her family found themselves in. It was because of quick thinking, ingenuity, but mostly luck that any Jews survived the genocide carried out in Lvov. I definitely recommend that you read this book. Thanks for watching.